Okay, so everyone is talking about Chat GPT, and for good reason. It's pretty incredible. But everyone's using it to do things like codes and write essays and perform legal advice, etc. But no one's challenged it yet on historical facts, chiefly World War II era tanks. So that's what I'm going to do today. I want to see how it gets on. Now, I have used this for other things and I've been very, very impressed, but I'm going to see how it gets on with questions of a tank nature, which will be interesting. So let's start with a simple one. What's the best tank ever? I haven't done this before, so I'm not entirely sure what kind of responses I'm going to get. So here we go. It's difficult to say what the best tank ever is, as it depends on what criteria you are using to evaluate the tank. Well, that's very true. And it's the kind of response I'd expect from a kind of non-committal chatbot at this stage. So let's try this. What was the most effective tank of World War II? A bit more of a specific question there. So there were many effective tanks used during World War II, and it's difficult to say which was the most effective overall. Some of the most well-known tanks of the war include the German Tiger, and the Panther, T-34. No, okay, I'll give it that. No, that's a generic answer. It's the kind of answer I'd expect, really. Very generic. But it covered all the bases. So let's try. What tank was considered to be the best at the start of World War II? So I'm wondering what it's going to say for this one, because I'm trying to be more specific with my question, I guess. At the start of World War II, the German Panzer III. Okay, that's an interesting one. So it's going about the Panzers. They were considered to be some of the best tanks of the world in the world. Both tanks were well armed and heavily armoured and played a crucial role in the early success of the German military. The Soviet T-34 was also considered to be a formidable tank. Well, the Soviet T-34 wasn't built until 1940, I don't believe, but I suppose it is early war, but not necessarily the start. The start was more 1939. So I don't agree. I'm sorry if my response did not fully address your question, or if you didn't feel satisfied. That's fine. Okay, so here I've asked what tank was considered to be the best in the world in 1939. So I'm hoping it might mention a certain French tank, but it doesn't seem to have done. I think it's provided the same response as it did earlier. So it's saying here about the German Panzers, the early Panzers, T-34. Oh, it mentions the Matilda. That's interesting. So that's good that it mentions the Matilda there. What about the French ones? The French army had several tanks at the start of World War II, including the Char B1. That's interesting. So it does mention the Char B1 there, but I had to actually prompt it because from what I understand, and I think historically it's certainly the case, that the French Char B1 was probably the best tank of 1939. But it wasn't utilised correctly by the French. That's another subject. So I'm going to say most of the French tanks were lost due to poor battlefield tactics. Can you give me an example of this? Yes, it is true that many French tanks were lost or captured during the Battle of France in 1940, in part to poor battlefield tactics. There you go. One example of this was the Char B1 heavy tank. Blah blah. This tank was designed for close combat, close infantry support, was heavily armoured. However, they were slow and not suited for mobile warfare. As a result, they were often used as stationary strong points rather than being used to support infantry. Well, this is a really good answer. I'm very impressed with that. And it is like talking to it's like talking to a human being. It doesn't feel like talking to a bot. For me, it's passing the Turing test at this point. So I'm saying, can you recall an incident involving lots of French tanks being parked in a single field and then destroyed? So there was an incident where that occurred, but I can't actually remember the specifics, so I'm asking it if it might know. There is no specific incident that I can recall involving a large number of French tanks being parked in a single field and then being destroyed. However, it is possible that such an event occurred during the Battle of France, as many French tanks were lost or captured during that time. One possible explanation of this event might be that the French tanks were being held in reserve and caught by surprise by the German attack. Well, I'm thinking of an actual specific incident, but like I say, I can't remember when it was or what happened. I know there were a lot of French tanks parked up in the fields and they all got destroyed by a single air raid. I think they were parked next to a fuel dump, and they lost many tanks, and it was actually a major factor in the loss of the French lines, because they lost many tanks in one big horrible conflagration. Okay, well, it did happen, but I can't recall the specifics. I'm sorry if I was unable to provide you with more information, but okay. Anyway, in a one-on-one confrontation, let's get more tanky now. Which tank would win between Shah B1 and a Panzer? It said a Panzer 3, I believe. I don't want to. Yeah, so it knows about the Panzer 3. I'm just going to say 3 at this point. Let's see what it says. Let's see if this has got a bit of an opinion about one-on-one battles. It is difficult to say for certain which tank could win in a one-on-one confrontation between a Shah B1 and a Panzer 3, as the outcome will depend on a variety of factors such as the models, the versions, the terrain conditions, and the tactics and skills of the crew. Well, that's absolutely true. But, oh no, okay, but here we go. In general, the Shah B1 was a heavily armoured tank, etc. Panzer 3, on the other hand, was a medium tank. Okay, and it specifies the gun millimeters, and it outlines that and here we go. In a head-to-head battle, the Shah B1 might have an advantage due to thicker armour and more powerful guns, but the Panzer 3 could potentially outmaneuver the Shah B1 and attack its weaker rear armour. Ultimately, the outcome of such a confrontation depends on the specific circumstances. Well, it's a non-committal answer, but it does seem to steer towards the idea that a Shah B1 would win. So that's cool. I like the way it does that. Let's try another one. What tank would win between a Panzer 3 and a Centurion? So this is a bit more obvious now. Obviously, it's Centurion, but I don't think it's... Well, let's see what it does. It is difficult to say for certain which tank would win in a one. Okay, so it's given me the standard initial response, kind of like a play. It's like a legalese going on here. It doesn't want to quite commit to an answer, but here we go. In general, and then here we go. The third paragraph is what we want. In a head-to-head battle, the Centurion would likely have an advantage, a little bit more than likely, but okay, due to its thicker armour and more powerful gun. However, the Panzer was faster and more agile. Well, that's true, and could potentially outmaneuver the Centurion. Wow, okay. Ultimately, the outcome of such a confrontation would depend on the tank crews. Well, actually, yeah, okay. That's a really good answer. It's basically saying, yeah, the Centurion probably, but kind of thing. It's caveating everything, which that's what AI machine learning algorithms do. But this is not like any other AI machine learning algorithm I've ever seen. It's another level entirely. It's going to change the world, I guarantee. This time in 5 years, or even 2, I think we're going to be in a different world. Anyway, what tank would win between a German and a M1 Abrams? This is just silly question. Everyone knows the answer. But in a head-to-head battle, the M1 Abrams would likely have a significant advantage due to its superior armour and armament. The Sherman would not be able to withstand the firepower of the M1 Abrams, and its own gun would not be able to penetrate the armour of the M1 Abrams. However, the outcome of such a confrontation could potentially be influenced by other factors such as terrain, etc. Well, yeah, admit it, the M1 will own the Sherman. I'm going to get silly now. It is true that the M1 Abrams would likely have a significant advantage over the Sherman in a one-on-one tank battle. The M1 Abrams is a modern main battle tank, but is equipped with advanced armour and a powerful 120mm main gun, while the Sherman is an older tank, and it did fight in the Korean War, yes. And this is brilliant. It's a great answer. However, it is important to note that the outcome of any tank battle is determined by factors such as... Yeah, okay. LOL. Okay, it didn't reply to that. It understood what I meant by own though, which is funny in itself. It is true. I'm going to ask it who it thinks I am, if I can spell my own name right. I haven't done a YouTube video in a while, so I don't think it will know. I'm sorry, but I don't have any information about a person going by that gamer tag or handle. Oh well. So anyway, let's go back to tanks. I'm just being silly with it a little bit, seeing what I can get away with and what it responds to. Going back to tanks, what was the heaviest tank of World War II? The heaviest tank of World War II was the German... Wow, okay, I didn't think it was going to mention the Maus. This is a prototype tank, but that's amazing. I thought it was going to say... I didn't think it was going to mention a prototype tank, I don't know why. But that's a really cool answer, that's brilliant. 188 tons. Super heavy tank. Okay, I'm going to ask it how many were built. I'm just intrigued to know how deep down the rabbit hole of tank geek knowledge this algorithm will go. It's getting saucy with me. As I mentioned earlier, only 2 prototype tanks were built. Oh, it did actually say that. I missed that because I didn't read the whole response. See, I'm being lazy, and it actually called me out there. Well, I'm pretty captivated by this. So this is like deep level tank knowledge it has. This is not just scraping off Wikipedia, or this is such a different level to Google. It's completely like night and day difference. This is a paradigm shift in computing and in the way we gather information, I think. Anyway, what happened to these prototype tanks you speak of? I'm trying to trick it by kind of using a slightly different style of language. Don't know. I don't think it will be tricked. No, it understands exactly what I meant. It is not clear what happened to the 2 prototypes, isn't it? I'm not so sure about that. The program was captured. The program was abandoned even by the military. Likely that they were scraps or captured by the Allies. What does it? Does it mention it? Oh, it does. Okay, cool. And there are some sources that suggest one of the prototypes was captured by the Soviet Union and taken to the Kubinka Tank Museum, where it is said to us, because that's what I was hoping it was going to mention, and it did, but it actually said it was only a claim, which is interesting. I thought that was official, but I guess nothing is official coming from that side of the world. So, do you mind me asking all of these tank questions? No, I don't mind answering your questions about tanks. All good, thank you. Just making sure. So, what tanks were fielded at the Battle of Aras? Let's see what it has to say about this. It is not clear what tanks, oh really, were fielded at the Battle of Aras, as there is no historical record of a battle by that name. Oh, no, I've spelt it wrong. Yes, I have spelt it wrong actually. What tanks were fielded, I'll give it that one. What tanks were fielded at the Battle of Aras with 2 R's? I thought it would, I guess it didn't know what I was trying to say there. Oh, this is more like it, yes. No, that's not the one I meant. No, I meant the one in 1940. I didn't mean the one in 1917. But let's see what it has to say about the World War I battle. Yeah, Mark 1s. Yeah, great. No, it's a good answer. But it's not the battle I want. So I'm going to specify the year. I'm doubting my own knowledge now. Was there even a battle in 1940? I don't know. Was there even a war? Yes. Explain to me what happened at the Battle of I don't know what to type. Arras in 1940. Yeah, that would do. There was no Battle of Arras in 1940. The Battle of Aras was a battle in World War One that took no. There was definitely a Battle of Aras in 1940, so it's made a mistake here, or it doesn't have the knowledge base. I don't know if the battle went by a different name. I think it was commonly known as the Battle of Aras. It was during the fall of France, but it was a battle where the British held off loads of panzers using a small, I can't remember how many they were, about 10 or so Matilda tanks, and they managed to sort of push the Germans back and cause mayhem, and they cut through the German lines, and then eventually they encountered Flak 88s and had to retreat. But it was the first battle where the Germans encountered very stiff tank resistance against an enemy kind of thing. Anyway, I apologise if my response was not accurate. It is possible that there was a Battle of Aras, that's more like it, but I'm not aware of it. Well, that's fair enough. Maybe I've contributed in some small way to the Chat GPT dataset by making it aware that there was actually a Battle of Aras. Let's go to another question. How many tanks were built by Germany in World War II overall? Germany built a large number of tanks during the war, yeah. Difficult to say how many. According to some estimates, the German military produced approximately 50,000 tanks, including combat tanks and support vehicles such as destroyers. Well, that's a great answer, and that's actually a figure I've read, so that's spot on. How many were lost on the Eastern Front? Germany suffered heavy losses on the Eastern Front, and I generally don't know what the answer is to this, but I know it's 20,000. Well, okay, that's interesting. So I guess a good question now to ask is how many it lost on the Western Front. It definitely wasn't anywhere near 20,000. Let's see what it has to say. Yeah, it's hard to say, but give me a figure. Yeah, 5,000. Oh, okay, that's lower than I thought, but that's interesting. That puts it into perspective if those figures are accurate in terms of losses, German losses on the Eastern Front versus the Western Front. So what happened to the rest of them? So that's the kind of question that would trick most chatbot AI, because it wouldn't understand the context of what you were saying. But this one completely nails it. The remaining tanks that were built by Germany during the war were likely lost or destroyed in other theatres of war, such as the North African campaign. Yeah, of course. It is also possible that some tanks were captured. Yeah, absolutely. Or put into service by the enemy armies, or that they were just abandoned or scrapped. Yeah, that's just the perfect answer, basically. This is incredibly good, I have to say. It's just basically everything it said is correct, except for the Battle of Aras so far. And the fact it won't quite give you a firm answer about what it doesn't give you opinions. It will tell you things, but it will also caveat everything it says, which I think is a good thing. Anyway, in a long-range battle, what Russian tank was the most effective? There were several Russian tanks that were effective at long-range battles. Yeah, one of them was a T-34. I'm not sure about that. That didn't really have a particularly long-range main gun, did it? So that's an interesting... That's possibly not accurate, actually. That's the first time it said something that's made me go, not sure. The IS-2 says hello, so this is the silliness now. Let's see if it understands what I'm trying to do there. The IS-2 was another Russian tank that was used during World War II and was equipped with a 122mm main gun. So, okay. Yeah, I'm just reading this. Yeah, thick armor, resistant. Yeah. So why didn't you say it was why didn't you say it was one of the best at long range? It didn't mention that. It mentioned the KV-1 and the T-34, but it didn't mention the IS-2. I apologise if my previous response was not clear. The IS-2 was indeed one of the best Russian tanks for long-range battles. That's amazing that it said that. And I should have included it in my list of effective tanks. The IS-2 was equipped with a 122mm main gun and had thick armour, making it well suited for long range. Brilliant. What an incredible response that was. It acknowledged that it made a mistake, which is kind of crazy, actually. So, because I would have said the IS-2 was a better tank at long range than the T-34. That's all I'm trying to say. It did mention the KV1 though. Anyway, let's ask some other silly questions. Where can I go to see a German Tiger tank? Several places, depending on your location. Well, yeah. Military museums, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's basically giving me a great answer, but I asked a bit of a boring, silly question there, really. And yeah, private collections, tank rallies, yeah. I'd love it if there was a tank rally locally. To me, I don't think they really exist. It's not like a second-hand car rally or a Jeep rally, is it? Specifically, where can I go now in England? Or just put now, today. Just stupid, really. Running out of ideas. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to provide specific recommendations for where you can go to see a German Tiger tank. My knowledge on information is available to me, and blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, well that's. I was hoping it might say like Bovingdon Tank Museum or something, but it doesn't know where I live. I'm in the UK, so I wasn't sure if it might be able to detect IP addresses. I don't think it can. Anyway, could a German Tiger tank pawn 100 Shermans? LOL. Let's see what it does. It is not accurate to say that a German Tiger tank could pawn 100 Shermans in a hypothetical battle. Really? It's basically seen my silliness and called me out. It doesn't have time for silliness. So, in a real-life conflict, the outcome of the battle is determined by a variety of factors, including the tactics. Yes, the terrain. The Sherman was a medium tank used by the US. Yes. In a real, I'm going to scroll down to in a real conflict, it is unlikely that a single Tiger would be able to defeat 100 Shermans on its own. The outcome of such a battle would depend on specific circumstances. Yeah, well, that's a great answer. I mean, obviously that's the case. I don't think for a minute that one Tiger would defeat 100 Shermans, but it's just funny that it even understood what I meant by that question. I just find that hilarious. Tell me the detailed specifics of the main gun used by the German Tiger. Let's see how granular it goes with the real geeky information. Oh yes, the WK-36. Yeah, and it was also used as an AA gun, and it had a bore length of 60 calibers. Yeah, well, this is amazing. Yeah, it's nailed that question. I think you could keep going. You could ask it what KWK was, 36, what it, blah blah. You could just keep going. Was it rifled? Let's see if it can understand what that means. Yes, it was. I didn't even know it was rifled, actually. I just asked that. So that's interesting, because I didn't know that the Germans had rifled guns in the war. I thought that was a British thing. So, do any countries still use rifled main guns? I know for a fact that Britain does with the Challenger 2. I don't think many other countries do. Yes, some countries use rifled main guns in their tanks. Rifled guns are generally more accurate than smoothbore guns. Well, I know, but tell that to NATO. What countries do? Which countries do? But let's let it finish. It's very detailed response. Oh, it's mentioned the T-14 Armata. Wow, and the Chinese. The Russian T-14 is rifled. Wow, I didn't know that. That's a new Russian tank. That's there's a lot of debate about whether or not it's even a real tank. Actually, it's all propaganda. As mentioned in my previous response, some countries currently operate tanks equipped with rifled guns, including Russia and China. Okay, brilliant. You forgot to mention Britain, Challenger 2. Too many requests in 1 hour. Okay, well, I've probably spammed Chat GPT enough with World War II tank questions. On the whole, 9 out of 10. It didn't know the Battle of Aras 1940, but I'll forgive it for that one. And also, it mentioned the T-34 is good at long range. I don't know. That's a debatable subject. I'm very impressed. Provide feedback. Yes. I'm going to just say Great stuff. Yeah, chat. I'm going to probably do another one of these vids. I may do a series on just sort of Chat GPT stuff because it's incredible. But yeah, it knows its tanks, and that's the important thing. Very, very impressive, and it's obviously using many data sets here. It's not just getting Wikipedia information; it's doing all sorts of very clever things. Lots of different databases, and yeah, and it's not just that. It understands the context of what you're asking, and it even gets a bit sassy with you at times. So incredible stuff.